All right. So, hi, Anna. Thanks for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Anna is at her beautiful studio, Eternal Bliss in Henrietta. And today we're just getting to know her and some of the classes she teaches and what her training is. So, Anna, can you tell me a little bit about your training in yoga and what classes you teach within Word Office primarily?
Yeah, so I've done four different yoga teacher trainings. The first one I did was, I think, like 6 or 7 years ago, or like 6 years ago. Yeah. And then my main teacher over the last 3 or 4 years has been this person based out of Malaysia named Gokula Chandra. So I've done most of my training and classes lately with him. And then for Inward Office, I teach classes for Paycheck, which are a combination of meditation, chair yoga, gentle yoga, and more active yoga.
Nice. Can you tell me a little bit about your training with your teacher in Malaysia? Like, what makes it unique, or what way does it inform how you teach now?
I feel like it's a really well-rounded training, whereas you get like the whole picture of yoga, whereas a lot of trainings now are very like asana or physical based. His training really incorporates like all of yoga from kind of a more traditional standpoint, I guess, where there's a lot of focus on yoga philosophy, pranayama, breath control, the meditation practice. So it's not just about the physical practice. It's really like that overall practice being for like all parts of your being towards that source of connecting.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't know that yoga is not just physical exercise. And so it's really important, I think, especially as teachers, that we have that full picture and then in some ways, right, bring it into our classes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So what's your favorite class to teach?
I think it really changes a lot, like with my own personal practice. Like if I have lately been like, yeah, it just really depends on like my own practice. I tend to gravitate towards wanting to teach more of like what my personal practice is at that period of time. So,
Yeah, and I think that that rings true for me as well. I know that I have less of an asana practice now and mostly have a meditation practice. And so I tend to feel more comfortable now teaching meditation over asana. And so um, I'm sure that's true with a lot of teachers because we all teach from our personal experience, right? That's the source of knowledge in yoga is we get that right training from the teacher, and then what works for us we share.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what's your favorite class to attend?
Um, a lot of my practice, like since I've been studying with my teacher, has been more home practice based. Um, but he does, I do take like the occasional online class with him. Um, yes, I really like combining the practice where I do like more of like that vinyasa, that flow type of practice. Not so much lately with being pregnant, but that's what I gravitate towards physically is like that flow based practice. But then I like the time to wind down, including like that pranayama breathing and meditation at the end of the practice before I do shavasana. So really trying to have a little bit of all of it in there.
Nice. Um, so what inspires you now or inspired you years ago when you started teaching yoga to share this with others?
I guess I just like yoga had such a big impact on my life and like helped me do like a total 360 really and kind of the path I was headed. And just being able to like share that like just the amount of connection or just like comfort you can find with yourself if you take that time to get to know yourself a little better from less of a judgmental place or less of a critical place.
Yeah, I think your groundedness and awareness is what really inspired me to say, yeah, you're going to be a good part of this team. So I think that's one of the things that inspires me about your teaching is your presence and, yeah, your groundedness.
Thank you.
So can you share with me maybe a story that's brought you to this place? Maybe something that's little known about you, or something that, you know, inspires you and brings you back.
Yeah. This was a question I had like a hard time trying to think of an answer for. I don't really know if there's like one set story, because it's like a lot of little snippets along the way, like certain things that kind of like stand out throughout my life that have kind of like brought me where I am. Some not so great, some really great, and like that like learning experience, you learn from those not so great things, and then like those great moments that stand out, like they're also kind of temporary. So it's like that give and take of things that I don't know, kind of like brought me to this place, but not been like super permanent, or like I guess my takeaway from them kind of changes as I grow and change too.
Yeah.
Probably not the perfect answer to that question. I don't really know how to like think of a story though, or like of one that story. So.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I play tech now?
Yeah, you're gonna have to use my phone that's upstairs.
No, I mean your black phone.
My black phone. You can play on it temporarily. Can you close the door on your way out? Can you close the door on your way out? Thank you. Stealing phones. You have that to look forward to in 3 years.
Sure.
Okay. So I know you're pregnant now, and pregnancy obviously has a big bearing on what your practice is like now. But right now, what is your go-to pose or thing that you do maybe most regular that's a part of yoga?
I've always really liked like downward dog. That pose just feels really good. Just that the length and grounding and stability in it. And then I've always loved like inversions, like Shirshasana headstand is still one of my favorite poses. I can't hold it as long as I used to, but I still love just getting upside down and letting things just settle and drain. My head's not leading the game anymore, and things can just kind of slow down a little bit. And I find like inversions for me, especially headstand, becomes almost meditative to a point where I'm just totally like just focused on staying in the pose and focused on breathing, and everything else kind of melts away.
Yeah, because we know, for those of us that practice Shirshasana headstand on the regular, like what happens when your mind wanders.
Yeah, you get kind of wobbly.
Yeah, you get wobbly, exactly. It's like the perfectly dangerous balancing pose for that. I always make the joke in my house, it's a dangerous pose because the kids will like come in front of me or try to jump on me. So I don't do that pose without a wall behind me, just for the sake of the kids. But
right.
So yeah, so the next question I have is, you know, for a lot of us, we have a hard time motivating to do our daily practice. And in yoga and in any kind of exercise, we have to be consistent about it. Like it's a practice, it's not the new thing I've been saying is it's a practice, not a test, right? Like you don't do it once and then pass and you're done. And so what motivates you, or what do you say to yourself when you're feeling like lazy or uncomfortable? I remember that in pregnancy, like just being uncomfortable and not wanting to practice. Is there something you say to yourself or a way you motivate yourself?
I know like a lot in like the like first couple months of my pregnancy, it was definitely a struggle being nauseous all the time and not really even like feeling like getting off the couch kind of thing. So that was a struggle that like I definitely surrendered to, just like that I'm just gonna rest and lay here, like go do a restorative pose kind of thing. So I think sometimes it comes to like being less forceful about what you consider your practice to be. Like Like just because you didn't do like an hour-long practice one day doesn't mean like you can't do like a practice the next day or like a shorter practice that day and still have it be something, just that consistency of like showing up, whether it's just sitting for a few minutes, taking a few breaths, or like doing more of a restorative pose. If you do like lack the energy, maybe it is like a sign you need rest. And then when like you actually feel that craving to move, to allow yourself to do that too, but not be like it's all or nothing. Like at least do like a little bit, and then a little bit can sometimes turn into more as you kind of like start to shift and move around, but not like, I know for me, I tend to be that like all or nothing kind of person. Like either I practice for 2 hours or I don't practice at all, but being able to be okay with like, just gonna get on my mat, do at least 5-10 minutes, and then maybe that turns into a half hour, maybe it turns into an hour, depending on how much time I have or how I'm feeling, just at least showing up for something and then seeing what happens.
Yeah, you bring up a good point too about bringing ourselves into balance with what's going on with us. I think for me, when I look to it, like my life, my practice has changed and evolved so much, but each time it's changed, it's been to meet me where I'm at. So it sounds like that's kind of what you're talking about. Sometimes you just have to like start and even like satiate the mind and say, it's just gonna be 5 or 10 minutes. And then it's something you slowly step into.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes just like unrolling the mat and getting there is the hardest part. And then like get past that, then you're there, and then you just do, whether it's physical practice, meditation practice, whatever the case may be, just getting there.
Yeah, maybe that's the motivation, is just unroll the mat and stand on it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so the last question I have is, what would you say to somebody who is thinking about trying one of your classes and is uncertain?
Yeah. I guess in terms of my teaching, I try to really be inclusive and give lots of options, which is of course harder when I can't see people. I sometimes have a harder time knowing what options to give, but I always try to like look around the room or like feel out like different steps, kind of taking people through steps, like you can stop here, or you can add this on, or you can add this on, and like trying to make it as accessible as possible so people aren't like it's all or nothing, like I do this full pose or I can't do anything. Like trying to build it up so people can find their own level of comfort.
I think that's really important too, just sharing that when we're in this virtual space and we can't see the people, what we're trying to do is actually teach the pose and then give different options for all the levels that might be in that class. And so given it could be the day, it could be the month, could be the person, the health limitations that they have at that time, but all of those different things together, right, could lead to a pose looking very different. And so, yeah, that's a really important point. And I think that a lot of teachers that are on our team do that, try to actually teach the pose and then give options. So thanks for sharing that about your class. And then is there anything else that you want to share about your teaching, your style, you know, who you are, as we end our interview today?
Think so. I guess kind of when I was reading that last question, the way you had wrote it, like the thing that popped into my head was how much I actually really hate like public speaking or speaking in front of groups of people. I'm like, I don't know, the when I started teaching yoga a few years ago, it just kind of felt so natural. Like there wasn't that intimidation that I usually get when I teach in front of a group of people. I don't know if it's just because like yoga just feels like so important to me, or it just has given so much to me. It just feels natural, I guess, to teach or talk in front of people when I'm teaching yoga, versus like if I had to do it for any other reason, I would be like a sweaty mess.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is true for you, but I've thought about that as well. And especially in this virtual space, because It's like we're on TV, and I don't think any of us got into teaching yoga to be on TV or to be recorded. I don't know anyone on the team that's like, this was my, life's goal to be in this kind of like TV space, right? But there is this interesting part about teaching yoga that's about not telling, but guiding somebody into themselves. So maybe that's the part that feels natural for you, like building that pathway from in someone's own self-awareness, because you've created that pathway in yourself. Versus I think of a public speaker as somebody who's like telling you something. It's like one directional versus
more like sharing versus, yeah, it definitely feels more like I'm just sharing what's true for me, and then like giving options off of that, and rather than like, this is the way it should be, or this is whatever I'm like trying to lecture on, if it was more of a public speaking thing. So yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah, and I think even to your point of what's true for me and the way we share our practice, right? We get these practices, and we have the rigor in our training to have the alignment, have the proper sequencing, and all, like have the structure of it. But then we take it home and we form it into our personal practice, right? And then we share what we've learned from our teachers' teachings, from our personal practice, right? And share it with others. And so it's like an informed personal experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So thanks, Anna. Thanks for your time and sharing a little bit of you today.
Yeah. Good talking to you, Marla.
Thanks.